If you would have told Graham Potter at the beginning of the season that not only would his side be in a Europa League spot, but would also be above Manchester City in the table, probably would have called you crazy. But that's exactly where Potter and Everton find themselves, in 5th position in the Premier League, 4 places and 4 points above Manchester City. City have had an awful start to the season and they don't even have a positive goal difference at this point, but they will be our first opponents here in today's episode as we host them at Goodison Park. That'll be our featured game here as we enter December, but we will also have highlights of games against Norwich City away and Newcastle at home to get to in today's episode. And although we've had some very good performances against some of the bigger clubs in the Premier League so far this season, including a 2-1 win over Arsenal at the Emirates and a 1-0 victory at home over Aston Villa, I do think we need to change the way that we approach some of these fixtures. Graham Potter's 3-4-3 formation is very much designed to keep possession of the ball, to work it across the back line, and to dictate the tempo and flow of the game. But against some of the bigger sides in the league, and particularly against Manchester City, we're not always going to have that luxury. So today we'll be trying out a new approach as we take to the field for the first time in our 5-4-1 counter formation. Not only do we have the defensive rigidity of the flat back 5 and the flat midfield 4, but we are also going out with a kick and rush tactical vision rather than our typical tiki-taka. That does mean we're not going to benefit from the boosts that our current coaching staff are applying. All of our coaches are just a novice in the kick and rush tactical vision, but it does mean on the few occasions that we manage to win the ball back from Manchester City, we are going to be able to play a more direct style of football. This is of course going to be one of those occasions where we do really miss the presence of Beto up front, but one of the reasons we brought in Matheus Cunha is for his attacking versatility, and Cunha will make the start up front today. The flat midfield 4 will be comprised of Jack Harrison, Amadou Onana, James Garner and Assane Diao, and our strongest back 5 that's played almost every game so far this season: Maxim de Kuyper, Jared Branthwaite, James Tarkowski, Arnaud Ahmedhodzic and Nathan Patterson. Jordan Pickford continues to captain the side in goal. No Jack Grealish, of course, for Manchester City, but it is going to be a strong side nonetheless. Jeremy Doku and Phil Foden support Erling Haaland up front. It's going to be a midfield 3 of Rodri, Nunez and De Bruyne. Kabore starts at right back in the absence of Kyle Walker, with John Stones and Ruben Diaz pairing up at centre back. Edison and Mendes round out the side. This is always a fixture that I dread playing, but without further ado, let's head over to Goodison Park and see if we can condemn Manchester City to mid-table mediocrity this season. So we are back up in the commentary booth at Goodison Park once more as we host Manchester City in the Premier League today. A terrible start to the season for Man City. I don't think I've ever seen them perform this poorly as they give away a free kick early on, which we will just take short. Down in mid-table, Manchester City, I almost never see them anywhere but really top of the league. You know, maybe second, third, but right up there amongst the best teams in the league. But that's Newcastle this season, it's Arsenal, it's us at the moment. Manchester City with a -1 goal difference, which is something that I so rarely see as well. It's going to be a tough fixture regardless, though. I'm not anticipating an easy time by any means. Jordan Pickford spreads it wide to De Kuyper, who could set Jack Harrison away early. Very few options up ahead of him. We should be able to spring into attack a little more quickly today, though, with the kick and rush tactical vision. Ordinarily, we play tiki-taka, as Onana not strong enough to hold off the challenger Kevin De Bruyne in midfield. But we're looking today to defend, compact, robust, and spring on the counter-attack. Diao, Patterson, James Garner up ahead of him. Ball into the box from Patterson, but Cunha was nowhere close. Cunha potentially going to be a bit out of his depth today. It's not the ideal role that we're asking him to play in this system. We're asking him to play more of a target man role than he would ordinarily play. Of course, we brought him in to play that false 9 position. dropping into the midfield, picking up the ball, linking the play. Threading balls in behind for Diao and Reece Nelson to run onto. Reece Nelson, of course, is out for the season, though, with that torn ACL. That's well won by Cunha. If he can do that a few times this afternoon, then he'll be fulfilling that role perfectly competently. Beto more of an ideal candidate to play the kind of role we're asking Cunha to play today. Beto, of course, is in the West Country, though, playing for Aston Villa. Haven't checked in on his statistics or anything like that. Potentially we'll do that after the game. We'll have a check-in on Beto and maybe even Dwight McNeil and see how they're getting on at their respective clubs. Dwight McNeil in Atalanta, playing, I believe, Europa League football this season. Although I could be misremembering that. Rodri on the ball. Kabore stepping into the boots of Kyle Walker, who I believe has left Manchester City in this particular save. There's Onana once more. Neither team have used the ball particularly well in the game so far. Manchester City, more surprising that that applies to Manchester City than it applies to us, to be honest. Because nice ball in behind for Diao to run onto from Patterson. We don't really have anybody in the box to aim for, though. Bad challenge from the Manchester City left back. And we've seen one or two players sent off in recent games, and we're going to see it again here. Ruben Diaz gets a red card for this. Reckless challenge. I'm not sure it was a massively dangerous challenge. And Manchester City have just got a little bit more dangerous as Jeremy Doku leaves the field to be replaced by Manuel Akanji. And I'm tempted to go for goal here with Maxim de Kuyper. Should we have a go? It would make a lot more sense to just put this across the 6-yard box. But I see a nice gap at the near post, which we're going to aim for, and it hits the post, I think. I believe that hit the near post that we were aiming to sneak the ball just inside. Edison looked like he was expecting a cross, and he had positioned himself accordingly. But Maxim de Kuyper whips the free kick towards that gap that he left at the near post. And it rebounds off the woodwork, and Manchester City eventually clear. Jack Harrison with a good challenge. Does well to win the ball back again. Gives the ball away and wins it back once more. Does Jack Harrison. Nathan Patterson tries to switch the play to where James Garner was lying in wait. Matheus Cunha with the ball at his feet, but I think there was a hand in there. Referee blows for the free kick. It's been a scrappy start to the game. I think Maxim de Kuyper's free kick really is the only opportunity, I mean, it was barely even an opportunity. It was a pretty outrageous attempt from Maxim de Kuyper to try and score from there, but it's the only real shot on goal that's taken place so far. Nathan Patterson lays it off to Diao. There's James Garner, and Onana just clears the ball away on Man City's behalf. And Erling Haaland could be away on the counter-attack. Phil Foden. The game's not really played out as I had expected that it might before the game. I was anticipating Manchester City would have a lot of possession, and a lot of possession in our half in particular. And that we would be relying on quick counter-attacks. But that's not really proven to be the case. The game has been played in midfield for the most part. And we've been able to challenge Manchester City with that flat midfield four. Amadou Onana needs to continue on that run. He'd initially started making a really good run in. Not towards the back post exactly, but towards the the back area of the 6-yard box. And he just halted that run when he was about to be in a perfect position to receive the cross. Kevin De Bruyne manages to wriggle away from Nathan Patterson and Armand Hodzic. And it's Mendes now up from his left-back position. First real sign of threat from Manchester City, surprisingly. Kevin De Bruyne just holding the ball up. Finds Phil Foden. Lays it off on the edge of the box. And there's Rodri taking up an attacking position, and it's a good challenge, and Jack Harrison can't clear, and it's a good save from Jordan Pickford. Rodri going down on the edge of the box, and I think he might be injured. Manchester City starting to turn it on a little bit now. That was the first real sign of threat that we've had so far in the game. The first time that I've really felt nervous in defence. Good save again, Jordan Pickford. Just about nodded away by Jared Branthwaite. And we can come away with Diao, who just pounds the ball against, I think it was Mendes. And out for an Everton throw. Really good save from Jordan Pickford. I think it was Kevin De Bruyne who fired the shot in. And it was a shot that kind of came out of nowhere, really. Just fell to Kevin De Bruyne's feet. And he just put one of those feet through it. And what's that to go? What was that? I'm not even sure what I pressed there to make Takeover do that. I swear I wasn't even pressing anything. Just randomly passes, like Blair passes the ball out of play. I did not press A there. But Manchester City have the ball once more. Rodri, stolen away by James Garner. And Matheus Cunha making a run through the middle. Eventually ends up with the ball. And that's when the referee chooses to blow his whistle. But it's going to be an Everton free kick. Norwich, our next opponent's coming up as we travel to Carrow Road. Norwich, my local team, so I always like travelling to Carrow Road in these saves. I'm hoping Josh Sargent is still on the team. One of my favourite players for Norwich at the moment, Josh Sargent. Oh, Diao was almost there to steal the ball away. Borja Sainz, a very good player as well. He's not really reflected as such in the game at the moment. But I think in the next edition of the game, he'll be much, much higher rated. He's basically Emi Buendia 2.0, Borja Sainz. He plays in a fairly similar way going forward. Maybe a little bit more direct than Emi Buendia. But he has that same kind of feistiness, that same kind of relentless, dogged work ethic about him. As soon as he gives the ball away, he is hounding it down to win it back. And maybe has a little bit of a temper on him at times as well, which is something that got Emi Buendia in trouble every now and again at Norwich. Well worked, and Maxim Takeover's in space on the left-hand side, and we've got players in the box now. Matheus Cunha one on the edge. Still trying to find Cunha. And maybe Maxim Takeover made the wrong decision there. We did have players lining up for a cross. But Matheus Cunha just kind of held his position on the edge of the box, and Takeover pulled it back for him. Probably the wrong decision in hindsight, but it looked to be a good idea at the time. Kevin De Bruyne just recycles. And it's Rodri again in an advanced position. Just lays it off for Phil Foden, who beats Maxim Takeover. All ends up. Absolutely had him for breakfast there. He can't beat Jared Branthwaite in the same way, though. And Maxim Takeover again is away on this left-hand side. Kabore is extremely pacey, though. So Takeover just drops it into the path of Jack Harrison. And again, there's not really a good option in the box to aim for. Just recycle through Takeover. Onana. James Garner. Plays in Jack Harrison. And there's Jared Branthwaite, who just gives the ball away. Looking for Matheus Cunha again. And that's a poor pass by Manchester City. Allows Diao just to nod it down to Cunha, who again lays the ball into De Kuyper's path. And that's why De Kuyper was reluctant to cross earlier on, because Manchester City certainly have the edge if we are putting crosses into the box. But it's been a strange first half. Erling Haaland almost anonymous, really. And Manchester City not looking very good at all. I can see why they're down in mid-table this season. They look disjointed. They lack creativity. And to be fair, the same things apply to us, but we're the underdogs in this game. We'll take a 0-0 at half-time. So back out for the second half at Goodison Park. No changes. Although Amadou Onana is likely to come off before too long here in the second half. He's, as you can see there, running on almost empty. And I'm not really sure why. We've had a long layoff between this game and the last, as Kevin De Bruyne makes his way into the Everton box, but it's a good block by James Tarkowski. Oh, and Jack Harrison's just overrun that. Erling Haaland lays it off for Phil Foden. Maxim De Kuyper there to stop the cross, forces it back to Kabore. Rodri, good challenge again by Branthwaite, who manages to clear. It's done really well there. Cunha can't find an Everton shirt with the header though, and Manchester City are on the attack once more. It's been a much brighter start to the second half for Manchester City. But we have a chance to break now through Diao, and Erling Haaland has tracked him all the way back. Really good hustle from Erling Haaland to get all the way back into that left-back position. But we do work it wide to De Kuyper once more. There's Branthwaite. Tarkowski. Ahmed Hodzic on the right-hand side, where Nathan Patterson is there ahead of him. Tries to slip it in for Diao. It's out for an Everton throw instead. Diao once more. Driving at the Manchester City back line now, but gives the ball away. Only 3 total shots in that first half between the two sides. It was a very, very cagey game. A game very much played in midfield, as we said in that first half. Oh, and Rodri has set Erling Haaland away, and he's going to have the pace to beat Branthwaite, but he's not going to have the composure to beat Jordan Pickford. Pickford took a couple of steps off his line. And Erling Haaland's shot went almost straight at him. It was quick reactions for Jordan Pickford to get his hands to it. But you would have thought that would be tucked away in the corner from Erling Haaland. Great challenge from James Tarkowski. And again, Diao has a chance to run at Manchester City. And again, he gives the ball away. We've got to be careful here, because Ahmed Hodzic has stepped up to take away that passing lane. And he's left space in behind. Cunha can't find Diao. His kick and rush play style has not really worked as I hoped it might in this game. I thought we'd have players quickly transitioning when we won the ball back from Manchester City, but it's not really worked out that way. We have it set on long balls and direct passing. Good challenge. Diao can't prevent it from going out for a corner. And we have a lot of players set to get into the box as Gvardiol comes on for Kabore. But players haven't quite flooded forward as quickly as I thought they might, which has been an issue. That's kind of our entire game plan going into this game. And it's not really working out the way that we had anticipated. So Kanji from Manchester City. Onana forces him back, all the way back to John Stones. And Onana is going to have to come off next time the ball goes out of play. It's probably going to be a couple of changes from Graham Potter, to be fair. Diao again manages to steal the ball away, but again gives it straight back to Manchester City. And it's a good block. James Tarkowski just clears. Diao's had a really poor game. He's not been able to get anything going. Normally he looks so dangerous with the ball at his feet, but it's just not been the case today. Onana spreads it wide to Patterson. And Patterson just retains possession through Ahmed Hodzic. There he is once more. Nathan Patterson once more. And Diao making a good run in behind, which Akanji is privy to. Diao twists and turns, puts it into the box, but it's straight at Ederson, who claims comfortably. Clears away, does Ederson. James Tarkowski wins the header. There's Harrison. Maxim de Kuyper with a really good forward run. And he's not going to be shy about crossing this time. And it almost fell to Cunha in the box. He was turning away, trying to bring it down on his chest. But it was just headed away by the Manchester City defender. Erling Haaland once more. Jared Branthwaite shepherding him out towards the touchline. He's done a good job of that, forcing the ball to Gvardiol. I'd much rather it was at the feet of Gvardiol than Haaland. Gvardiol does manage to find Rodri though. Chipped clear from Branthwaite, but Harrison was moving towards him rather than away from him. Phil Foden gives it straight to de Kuyper. Manchester City pressing high, but we do manage to work it right to Nathan Patterson. And there's Diao. Another chance to run at Manchester City. Mendes has as much pace as Diao, but Diao's managed to wriggle away from him. Cunha strikes narrowly wide. Really good effort from Cunha, taking the ball down on his chest and firing with his left foot. As Nunez comes off for Kovacic, Graham Potter's going to make a change here as well before the goal kick. So 2 changes for Graham Potter and Everton. It's going to be Onana and Harrison to come off. Josh De Silva to come on. And the youngster Lewis Dobbin, recently returned from his loan spell at Southampton. He's going to make an appearance today as well. Coming in to cover the injured Reece Nelson, as we only have Bertrand Traore as depth beyond Diao and Harrison at the moment. He's had a good spell out at Southampton. He's up 3 overall, is Lewis Dobbin. Up to a 69 overall now. So already he's looking like he's much closer to making a real impact on the first team. 69 overall, of course. Still not fantastic for a Premier League player. But even at 66 overall last season, he was making an impact for us and he was showing some real promise. So, obviously, the better that we can make him, the quicker he can start playing a really key part in this first team. And Cunha sets Dobbin away here. He does have 3 Manchester City defenders for company, but he cuts inside. And he finds Nathan Patterson on the overlap. James Garner's it on the edge of the box. Makes it into the Manchester City box. But it's cut out by a Manchester City defender, and De Bruyne can set Phil Foden away on the right-hand side. Great challenge from de Kuyper though. Finds Diao. And there's Josh De Silva. Can't quite find Cunha. Josh De Silva has the ball once more though after a poor Manchester City pass. De Kuyper just has to work back to Branthwaite, who hooks it over to Ahmed Hodzic on the right-hand side. There's Nathan Patterson. James Garner again in space. Josh De Silva. We've seen him score from this kind of range already this season. Not once, but twice. And he's tested Ederson there. Great challenge. Diao in space. Great save by Ederson. And Cunha puts it off Mendy and out for a corner. I cannot believe how close we came to scoring there. What a save that is from Ederson. Could have been tucked slightly more in the corner. And if anything, a right footer there might have been better placed to score. Ahmed Hodzic. Again, saved by Ederson and held this time. But we are pressing in these last 15 minutes of the game. Trying to find that winning goal. Maybe we haven't quite been aggressive enough over the course of the game. Manchester City have been down to 10 men since, what, 5 minutes into the game potentially? It was very, very early on. That's a great ball through to Erling Haaland. Lays it off for Rodri, who sets it wide for Mendy. Rodri once more. There's Haaland again. Good save. Jordan Pickford. It's near post. And the referee's given a penalty against Jared Branthwaite. And I think this time we actually can't really complain. I tried to get the block in. I pressed B to do so. And Jarrad Branthwaite left one on Erling Haaland late after he'd gotten the shot away. And Erling Haaland absolutely buries it. No goalkeeper in the world is ever getting close to that. Erling Haaland could have told Jordan Pickford where he was going. And he still never would have gotten to it. And I know I've been complaining about big club bias in recent episodes. And I absolutely think we've seen examples of that in recent episodes. I'm not so sure that's an example. I think that's probably a legitimate penalty. And I think we shot ourselves in the foot there. Barely 10 minutes to go in the game. And we find ourselves 1-0 down against 10-man Manchester City. That could all be about to change though. Matheus Cunha levels the scoring from the kickoff. Manchester City absolutely going to sleep. And we said Hassan Diao has had a poor game today, but he's come up with the assist. Matheus Cunha, who else to come up with the goal? His 9th of the season. And that's exactly what we had intended to do all game long with this kick and rush play style. Get players running in behind. Long ball over the top from Diao to Cunha. And Cunha makes no mistake. Absolutely buries it. And all of a sudden it's 1-1. Between them, Hassan Diao and Matheus Cunha have absolutely bailed Jarrad Branthwaite out there, because it looked for all the world as if Jarrad Branthwaite had just lost us the game by committing that foul in the box against Erling Haaland. And Josh De Silva's trying to win the ball back high up the field. Lewis Dobbin now doing the same. Kovacic just working it back to Mendes. James Garner joining in the press now. Mendy cuts inside. And if we can win the ball back here, Manchester City are going to be extremely stretched. Phil Foden beats Hassan Diao. Maxim de Kuiper for company. And Jordan Pickford's got to come and claim that, and he does. And Manchester City are going to be extremely stretched here as they have bodies committed forward. Maxim de Kuiper. And it's a great run through the middle from Josh De Silva. And he spreads it wide for Lewis Dobbin, who tries to cut inside. Lewis Dobbin still going. Matheus Cunha into the box now. Pulls it back. Lewis Dobbin can't quite get on it before it's cleared by Manchester City. And the Everton fans in full voice. Maxim de Kuiper always a threat from these corners. We know he can put it on a sixpence when he needs to. And this is a moment when absolutely he needs to. There's Cunha. It's actually Stones, and Tarkowski wins it in stoppage time. James Tarkowski rises highest at the back post and nods it into the essentially empty net. Ederson was on the ground. Tarkowski was in the air. The ball is in the back of the net, and it's 2-1 Everton as we enter stoppage time here at Goodison Park. It was Cunha who managed to win the initial header, and Ederson actually wasn't on the ground. He was scrambling as he went to try and claim that ball that Matheus Cunha headed on. And James Tarkowski likely wasn't going to feature in our plans a great deal this season with the addition of Joachim Andersen, but with Andersen's injury, Tarkowski's back in the side, and he scored potentially the winning goal against Manchester City. 3 final changes for Graham Potter then. We barely had a chance to make them in this game. But Doucouré, Washington and James Justin all come on. We're going to go into our ultra defensive game plan for these last couple of minutes of the game. And we're just going to try and see it out, obviously. Barely 2 minutes left to play. And all we need to do is prevent Manchester City from scoring, and we come away with all 3 points against the perennial champions. Having a terrible, terrible time this season. And Phil Foden loses control of the ball, and it slips out of play. And it looks like Manchester City's misery is going to continue. Diao gives the ball away, though, as he tries to find Maxim de Kuiper. And we are there. The referee's final whistle goes. And somehow we've come back from 1-0 down against Manchester City to win 2-1 at Goodison Park. 3 goals in the last, 7 minutes? 10 minutes plus stoppage time potentially. I'm pretty sure there was about 83 minutes on the clock when Jared Branthwaite fouled Erling Haaland to give away the penalty. And then from the kickoff we equalised. And just into stoppage time we scored the winner. It was 83 minutes, 83, 84 and 90. They weren't all penalties. I'm not sure what the other P is. One of the P's was bold, which indicates a penalty. And then there was another P that wasn't bold. Regardless, it's a 2-1 victory somehow at Goodison Park. And after the high of that result comes a low. Abdoulaye Doucouré putting in a transfer request as he's not happy with the lack of game time that he's getting at the moment. It's fair enough, really, because he's not the first name on the team sheet at the moment. Although with the absence of Lewis Ferguson, he would be getting more game time over the coming months. And before we jump into our next game, we are going to have another go at signing a youth academy prospect. We failed to sign an 84 potential player in the last episode, but I can't resist trying again with Theodore Freeman. He's just 16 years old, but already worth £1.9 million. So I'm eager to see what that overall would be. It's in the 51 to 71 range, but I have to imagine it's going to be towards the top end. Its potential again is a 74 to 94. Like with the previous prospect, we only have a 30% chance of signing him, but we have failed in basically all of our high potential prospects so far. So we're sure to get some luck at some point or another. But yet again, we fail. And it pains me as much on this occasion as on any other. But yet again, we are going to have to say no to a really great youth academy prospect. And already Abdoulaye Doucouré is drawing interest from other clubs. He's been approached by Fulham, and to prevent the same thing from happening with Ben Godfrey, I am going to offer Ben Godfrey a contract extension. Only 6 months left on his current deal, but he's only 26 years old. He's a good rotation player. I would like to keep him around. So it's a 2-year extension for Ben Godfrey on his current salary. So he will remain an Everton player for the remainder of this season and 2 additional seasons beyond that. And as we scroll through the player morale, there are a number of players who are unhappy with their current contract and who are deserving of an extension, James Garner being one of them. Currently has a 1.5 years left to run on his deal, and he's only paid $24,000 at the moment, so deserving of at least a moderate pay rise. So it's a 2-year extension for James Garner as well, but a pay rise to take his salary up to £30,000, so he'll be an Everton player for another 3.5 years. And Nathan Patterson is also a player who I think would be deserving of a moderate pay rise based on his recent performances. He's currently only making £15,000 a week, but he did win Most Improved Player of the season last year. So Nathan Patterson gets a moderate pay rise as well as a 2-year extension, and his squad role gets bumped from rotation up to important because he is now a fixture of the first team. And with that, we will head over to Carrow Road for our next fixture against Norwich City. Norwich having a decent enough season. They find themselves in 14th position in the Premier League, 3 points away from the drop zone. And they do indeed still have Josh Sargent up front as well as Ashley Barnes behind him. They've added Bobby Decordova-Reid to the side though, as well as Japhet Tanganga, who's been suggested as a potential transfer target for us. There are some tired legs in the 11, but we can only afford to rotate our strongest side so much. Ben Godfrey comes into the back line ahead of James Tarkowski. Josh De Silva comes into midfield in place of Amadou Onana, whilst Lewis Dobbin comes in to the front three alongside Cunha and Harrison. Nathan Patterson with his freshly inked deal, as well as James Garner, stay in this side. And there really isn't a lot to show from this game. I'm certainly glad I didn't choose it as the featured game for this episode. Jordan Pickford was called into action on a handful of occasions to make some decent stops, but really he wasn't troubled too much, and we did very little to trouble the Norwich City goalkeeper as well. So although we are now 6 games unbeaten in the Premier League, we do only manage to come away with a 0-0 draw from Carrow Road. And as well as Doucouré negotiating not only with Fulham but also with PSV, we have also received an offer for Yusuf Chamiti from Galatasaray. Chamiti has clearly seen the writing on the wall and recognises that he's the odd man out now that Graham Potter has made that switch to a false 9. So we will negotiate with Galatasaray, and Buzzko's realistic selling calculator thinks that we can get somewhere in the region of 8.25 million for him. And we don't manage to get quite that much, but Galatasaray do meet us at £8 million after having come in with a bid of 6.7 initially. So we'll keep an eye on how that transfer progresses, but we may well have begun to make a dent in that 40 million net spend that we had earlier in the summer. But for now, we'll round out the episode with highlights from our matchup against top of the table Newcastle United. We're back to our strongest back five for this one. Amadou Onana returns to the midfield with a chance to impress his potential future club. Newcastle, of course, came in with a bid for Onana on deadline day in the summer, but we promised him that if he stayed for this season, then we would allow him to leave next summer. Assane Diao returns to the lineup alongside Bertrand Traore in support of Matheus Cunha up front. We said during the Man City game we could see why they were mid-table. We could see why Newcastle were top of the table in this one. Miguel Almiron opened the scoring early with a really good finish into the top corner. High and away to Jordan Pickford's left, and he couldn't reach it. Jordan Pickford made a number of good saves in the game, though, parrying away this shot from Miguel Almiron to prevent him from doubling his and Newcastle's lead. And it was Miguel Almiron causing issues again for Newcastle, this time in the box after the header from the corner was nodded down. Jordan Pickford again able to make the save, though, this time making a quick reaction stop with his feet. But Newcastle absolutely dominated the game, and they did double their lead shortly before the break. Joe Willock firing a shot across Jordan Pickford's body that he did well to react to but couldn't quite get a hand to. And it was much the same after half-time as well. Alexander Isak laying the ball into Anthony Gordon's feet. He took a couple of touches in the box and then buried the ball past Jordan Pickford. This time at his near post. And Daniel Parejo put the icing on the cake when he took the ball on the half-turn in the penalty area and fired left-footed past Jordan Pickford. He was outraged with his defenders for this one, and you can completely understand why. It was a completely dominant performance from Newcastle from start to finish. We barely came close to challenging Nick Pope, whereas Newcastle had a massive 20 shots on goal and, of course, scored 4 of them. So our unbeaten streak does finally come to an end. It was 6 games unbeaten. We lost in the 7th. A perfectly good run that's put us squarely in the hunt for a European place this season, but I'm sure that loss will see us drop a couple of places. And indeed, we do drop out of the European places completely, falling to just 6th position, level on points with Spurs, who occupy that Europa League spot, just a point behind West Ham in 4th. Just 2 points behind Arsenal in 3rd. It is Newcastle and Manchester United beginning to separate themselves from the pack, though. And we have 2 big Premier League games coming up in the next episode. A trip to the King Power to take on Leicester, and we will host Liverpool in the Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. I'm not sure that will even be the game that we feature, though, because we do have that quarter-final matchup against West Bromwich Albion to play as well. So you have to let me know in the comments below, which game would you rather see in full? The Merseyside derby against Liverpool, or the quarterfinal fixture against West Brom in the Carabao Cup? Either way, we'll look forward to those fixtures in the next episode. I hope to see you there. Take it easy.